Have you ever considered that eating less could actually be the ultimate power move for your biology? Forget the myths about being broke or lazy. One meal a day isn't deprivation. It's a high-level scientific strategy to torch fat and trigger a cellular revolution that most people will never experience. In today's deep dive, we're embarking on a journey through the 23-hour fasting window, commonly known as OMAD. We aren't just talking about skipping lunch. We're decoding the precise body timeline that flips your internal switches. Imagine your metabolism as a high-stakes corporation. Right now, director insulin is calling the shots, keeping your body in storage mode. But as the clock ticks, a new shift takes over: the autophagy cleanup crew. These cellular janitors don't just burn fat. They repair your DNA and recycle old proteins, turning your biology into a lean, mean, self-healing machine. You're about to discover how your body transitions from a sugar burner to a high-octane fat-burning furnace. But before we break down the science, hit that like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments, would you dare try OMAD for 7 straight days? Stick around till the end, because I'm revealing the ultimate protocol to bypass hunger pangs and maximize your results instantly. To truly understand why your body thrives in a fasted state, we have to look back, way back. For nearly 2 million years, our ancestors didn't have the luxury of a drive-thru or a pantry stocked with processed snacks. They were hunters and gatherers, governed by the harsh, unpredictable rhythms of the natural world. Their survival depended on a biological masterpiece: the ability to perform at peak physical and cognitive levels on an empty stomach. If our ancestors became sluggish or hangry every 3 hours without a granola bar, the human race would have gone extinct a long time ago. Evolution designed you to be a masterpiece of energy efficiency. In the wild, food was a reward, not a constant. When the hunt was unsuccessful, the body didn't shut down. It leveled up. It tapped into its most concentrated energy source: stored body fat. This is our primal instinct. We are hardwired for a cycle of feast and famine, a metabolic flexibility that allowed us to trek for miles and outsmart predators while fasted. Now, look at the world today. We've replaced that ancient wisdom with the standard American diet, or SAD, and the name couldn't be more fitting. We are constantly bombarded with refined sugars, high-fructose corn syrup, and an endless cycle of 6 small meals a day. This constant grazing keeps your insulin spiked from sunrise to sunset, effectively locking the doors to your fat stores. We've become sugar burners, dependent on the next hit of glucose to avoid the inevitable crash. We are living in a state of biological mismatch. We have the bodies of ancient elite survivors trapped in a world of caloric abundance. Your DNA doesn't recognize a bagel or a sweetened latte. It recognizes the signal to store fat for a winter that never comes. By embracing intermittent fasting, you aren't doing something new or trendy. You are returning to your factory settings. You are telling your biology that the hunt is on. When you stop the constant intake, you trigger the same survival genes that kept your ancestors sharp, lean, and resilient. You aren't starving yourself. You are finally allowing your body to use the premium fuel it's been carrying around for years. It's time to stop fighting your design and start leaning into the biological power that's been dormant inside you for millennia. Let's zoom in on the first 8 hours after your last bite. This is the era of director insulin's absolute dominance. Imagine your bloodstream as a high-speed highway. The moment you swallow that final morsel of food, your blood sugar spikes, and the alarm bells go off at corporate headquarters, your pancreas. Out comes director insulin, the most powerful storage hormone in the human body. He's the guy in the sharp suit with a clipboard, and his job is simple: get that glucose out of the blood and into the cells immediately. For the first 4 hours, you are in the fed state. Your body is awash in exogenous energy. Director insulin is working overtime, swinging open the doors to your muscle and liver cells to cram in as much glycogen as possible. But here's the catch: your cells have a limited storage capacity. Once the shelves are full, insulin doesn't just stop working. He looks at the excess energy, shrugs, and reroutes it straight to your adipose tissue, your fat cells. In this state, your body is a one-way street. It is physically impossible to burn fat when insulin levels are high. The door to your fat stores isn't just closed, it's deadbolted. Now, around the 6-hour mark, things get interesting. Most people living the 6 small meals a day lifestyle never make it past this point. As your blood sugar begins to dip from its initial peak, you experience the roller coaster crash. Your brain, used to a constant drip of glucose, starts screaming for a quick fix. You feel that mid-afternoon slump, the brain fog, and the hangry irritability. If you reach for a granola bar or a soda now, you trigger another massive insulin spike, and the cycle resets. You've effectively trapped yourself in a perpetual storage loop, never giving director insulin a break. But by hour 8, if you hold the line, the tide begins to turn. The initial surge of glucose is finally clearing out. Director insulin starts to pack up his clipboard, his presence in the bloodstream finally beginning to recede. However, your body is still stubborn. It's been pampered with easy sugar for so long that it's forgotten how to tap into its own reserves. Your cells are essentially screaming for a manager. You are transitioning from the fed state into the early fasted state. This is the critical threshold where most people quit, but it's exactly where the magic begins. You are finally allowing the storage mode light to flicker off, preparing your metabolism for the deep, transformative cleanup that only happens when the director finally leaves the building. As the clock strikes the 8-hour mark and moves toward the 16th, you are entering the most prestigious phase of your metabolic overhaul. This is where the sugar burner version of you begins to die, and a high-performance biological elite starts to emerge. Think of your body like a sophisticated hybrid vehicle. For your entire life, you've been running on gasoline. That's glucose. It's cheap, it's volatile, and it burns dirty, leaving behind a trail of metabolic exhaust and cellular soot that we call inflammation and brain fog. But as you cross the 12-hour threshold, your internal sensors realize the gas tank is hitting empty. In a moment of biological genius, your liver flips a switch. It looks at your stored body fat, that vast, untapped reservoir of energy you've been carrying around, and says, "It's time." Through a process called beta oxidation, your liver begins to transform fat into a miracle molecule, ketones. Ketones aren't just a backup fuel. They are premium, 110-octane jet fuel for your biology. While glucose is a flickering candle, ketones are a laser beam. If glucose is the noisy, polluting combustion engine, ketones are the silent, high-torque electric motor. As these molecules begin to flood your system, the brain fog that has clouded your judgment for years doesn't just lift, it evaporates. This isn't an accident, it's evolutionary survival. Back in the day, if you hadn't eaten for 12 hours, your brain needed to be sharper, faster, and more creative than ever to find the next hunt. This is why your focus suddenly feels like a superpower. You're no longer riding the blood sugar roller coaster. You are on a steady, unbreakable plateau of mental clarity. But the real magic is happening deep inside your cells, within your mitochondria, the power plants of your life. When you run on glucose, these power plants produce a high amount of reactive oxygen species, which are essentially cellular rust. But when you switch to ketones, your mitochondria become incredibly efficient. They produce more energy with less waste. They are essentially getting a software upgrade that allows them to pump out massive amounts of ATP, the currency of life, while keeping the pollution at an all-time low. This is why that mid-afternoon slump disappears. You aren't waiting for a caffeine hit. You are being powered by your own body fat from the inside out. By hour 16, you are in the ketone sweet spot. Your insulin levels have plummeted to their lowest point in days, finally giving your cells a chance to breathe and recover. You've moved past the hangry irritability and entered a state of calm, focused dominance. You are no longer a slave to the pantry. You are a fat-burning machine. You are experiencing the clarity that ancient philosophers and elite warriors used to master their crafts. But don't get comfortable yet, because as we push past the 16-hour mark, we are about to trigger a process so powerful it won a Nobel Prize, a deep cleaning ritual that literally eats your own cellular trash for fuel. Now, welcome to the holy grail of human biology. We have just crossed the 16-hour threshold, and the atmosphere inside your body has shifted from a mere fat-burning session into a full-scale industrial renovation. This is the era of the autophagy cleanup crew. In 2016, the Nobel Prize in Medicine was awarded to Yoshinori Ohsumi for uncovering this exact mechanism, and it is nothing short of miraculous. The word autophagy literally translates from Greek as self-eating. Now, to the uninitiated, that might sound terrifying. But to a biohacker or a high-performance athlete, it is the ultimate secret to longevity. Think about it. Your cells are like tiny, bustling factories that have been running 24/7 for decades. Over time, these factories get cluttered. Parts break down. Old, dysfunctional proteins, the cellular equivalent of rusted machinery and toxic waste, start to pile up in the corners. In a state of constant eating, your body is too busy processing new shipments of raw materials to ever clean out the warehouse. This buildup of cellular junk is exactly what leads to accelerated aging, inflammation, and cognitive decline. But at hour 17, because you've deprived the body of external fuel, your system issues a mandatory general cleaning order. Your cells look around, realize there's no delivery truck coming, and they get creative. They start seeking out those broken proteins, damaged mitochondria, and misfolded fibers. They don't just throw them away, they recycle them. They break down the garbage into its base components, amino acids, and use them to build brand new, high-quality cellular structures. This isn't deprivation. It is the most sophisticated form of biological upcycling ever discovered. You are literally turning your old, weary cells into younger, more resilient versions of themselves. While the rest of the world is spending thousands of dollars on expensive, anti-aging creams that barely penetrate the skin, you are achieving true, deep tissue rejuvenation from the inside out for free. As we push toward hour 20, the autophagy crew hits its peak intensity. They are now targeting the zombies, the senescent cells that refuse to die but no longer function, secreting inflammatory signals that age everyone around them. Your body identifies these loiterers and clears them out, making room for cellular regeneration. This is the moment your skin starts to glow, your joints feel less stiff, and your immune system gets a massive reboot. You aren't just losing weight, you are stripping away years of biological wear and tear. You are becoming a leaner, cleaner, and more efficient version of yourself. You've moved beyond simple weight loss and entered the realm of biological immortality. But don't look back now, because between hour 20 and 23, we are about to hit the ultimate metabolic crescendo, the surge of growth hormone that turns your body into a fortress of lean muscle and unstoppable vitality. Now, as we approach the final stretch of your 23-hour journey, a voice in the back of your mind starts to whisper, "I'm starving." Your stomach growls, and your focus wavers for a split second. But here is the massive biological twist that the food industry doesn't want you to know. That hunger isn't a plea for energy. It's a ghost. It's a biological hallucination orchestrated by a hormone called ghrelin. Think of ghrelin as the Pavlovian gatekeeper. It doesn't trigger because your tank is empty, it triggers because your brain expects a delivery. If you've spent years eating lunch at noon, ghrelin will spike at noon like clockwork, screaming for attention. But here's the secret. Ghrelin is a wave, not a rising tide. If you don't feed it, it doesn't get louder. It actually recedes. Within 30 minutes, that starvation feeling vanishes, proving that your body was never in danger. It was just following an old, outdated script. Hunger is a suggestion, not an emergency. But I know what you're thinking. This sounds great in a lab, but can I actually live like this without losing my mind? Let's talk about David. David was a 42-year-old marketing executive who lived on the edge of burnout. He was 50 pounds overweight, pre-diabetic, and terrified of the word diet because he refused to live on steamed broccoli and kale smoothies. He loved food, real food, burger nights, Friday pizza, the works. David decided to stop fighting his cravings and start timing them. He adopted the OMAD protocol we're discussing today. For 23 hours, he rode the waves of ghrelin and let the autophagy cleanup crew do its work. But when that 1-hour window opened, he didn't eat like a bird. He ate like a king. He had the double cheeseburgers, the loaded tacos, and the occasional slice of pepperoni pizza. The result? David dropped 45 pounds in 6 months. His blood sugar stabilized, his energy skyrocketed, and for the first time in his life, he didn't feel like a prisoner to a meal plan. Why? Because by controlling the when, he gained massive leverage over the what. When your insulin is baseline low for 23 hours, your body becomes so metabolically flexible that it can handle a caloric surge without slamming the door on fat burning. David didn't have to give up his joy. He just had to earn it. He proved that you don't need a restrictive life to have a restricted waistline. You just need to master the clock. And as we hit the 23rd hour, your body is about to reward your discipline with a hormonal surge that makes Fountain of youth myths look like bedtime stories. But before you rush into your first 23-hour fast, we need a reality check. While OMAD is a biological powerhouse, it is not a magic wand that excuses poor judgment. If you spend your 1-hour window fueling up on nothing but processed junk and empty calories, you aren't hacking your biology. Bypassing nutrients will lead to severe bloating, brain fog, and a one-way ticket to nutrient deficiency. You cannot build a fortress out of cardboard. Furthermore, this protocol is a high-performance tool, and like any elite tool, it isn't for everyone. If you are pregnant, nursing, a growing child, or struggling with an underlying medical condition like type 1 diabetes or a history of disordered eating, stop right now and consult a professional. Your safety is the foundation of your success. Finally, let's address the elephant in the room, your social life. You don't have to become a hermit to be healthy. Mastery requires flexibility. I call this social OMAD. If a Saturday night gala or a family brunch doesn't fit your window, pivot. Shift your window or enjoy a 16-8 day. True metabolic health isn't about rigid perfection. It's about the resilience to feast with friends and return to the hunt the very next day. Use the science, but don't let the clock become your cage. Now, let's break down exactly what your plate should look like to ensure that when you finally eat, you're fueling a masterpiece. Ultimately, remember that OMAD is not a diet of deprivation or a religious ritual of suffering. It is a sophisticated biological lever, a tool that grants you absolute mastery over your own machinery. In a world obsessed with consumption, choosing to wait isn't just about losing fat. It's about reclaiming your focus and your freedom. Sometimes the breakthrough you're searching for isn't found in more food, but in more understanding. If you're ready to stop being a passenger in your own body and start driving, hit that subscribe button right now. Join our community of high performers and master the science of your own biology. If this deep dive opened your eyes, share this video with someone who's tired of the 6-meal-a-day trap. Let's spread the wisdom, flip the switch, and optimize together. I'll see you in the next one.